Welcome to EQBloom. Today's video explores a fascinating cutting-edge concept at the intersection of immunology, neuroscience, and digestive health, the link between a leaky gut and leaky brain. We've all heard the phrase, trust your gut, but what if that gut is compromised? What if the barrier meant to protect your body from harmful substances becomes porous, letting toxins, bacteria, and immune triggers leak into your bloodstream? And what if the same breakdown happens in your brain's own protective barrier? On this slide, we see a split silhouette of illustrating the gut and brain as separate yet deeply connected systems. The arrow shows inflammatory molecules crossing weakened barriers, hinting at a central theme. When one barrier breaks, the other may follow. By the end of this video, you'll understand how intestinal and brain permeability are linked, what the scientific literature says, and most importantly, what you can do about it. Let's begin with the gut. Your small intestine isn't just a tube that absorbs nutrients. It's a dynamic, semi-permeable barrier lined with epithelial cells. These cells are joined together by structures called tight junctions, which regulate what enters your bloodstream. When functioning properly, these junctions let nutrients pass but keep out unwanted guests, such as undigested food particles, bacterial fragments, and toxins like lipopolysaccharides or LPS. However, under chronic stress, poor diet, infections, or even certain medications, these junctions can weaken. This leads to increased intestinal permeability, or what is colloquially called leaky gut. In the visual here, we see these tight junctions breaking apart. Undigested molecules and bacterial fragments seep into the bloodstream. This can activate your immune system, sparking low-grade chronic inflammation, which doesn't stay localized. These inflammatory signals can travel, and as we'll soon see, they often head upward to the brain. Now let's switch gears to the blood-brain barrier, or BBB. The BBB is an incredibly sophisticated, tightly regulated shield of endothelial cells lining the brain's blood vessels. Its job to protect your brain from circulating toxins, pathogens, and inflammatory molecules. But just like the gut lining, the BBB can become compromised, especially in the presence of systemic inflammation. This state is referred to as leaky brain. It occurs when inflammatory molecules such as cytokines or bacterial fragments like LPS damage the BBB's tight junctions or alter the behavior of glial cells, which normally maintain barrier integrity. Once breached, the brain is vulnerable. Toxic elements can now enter neural tissue, triggering neuroinflammation, a hallmark of conditions like brain fog, anxiety, depression, fatigue, and even early neurodegeneration. On this slide, we see the endothelial lining breaking down, with toxins seeping in and neurons glowing red, indicating oxidative stress. This is not just a metaphor, it's a physiological phenomenon increasingly supported by both animal studies and human clinical data. Here's where the picture becomes truly integrated. A leaky gut doesn't stay in the gut. When bacterial fragments like LPS leak into the bloodstream, they interact with immune cells, triggering the release of cytokines, chemical messengers of inflammation. These cytokines, and sometimes even LPS itself, can travel systemically, reach the brain, and cross the BBB if it's weakened or inflamed. The result? Neuroinflammation. This slide illustrates that chain reaction, leaky gut to bloodstream to BBB to brain. The inflammatory traffic doesn't stop at the border. It infiltrates the amygdala, hippocampus, and prefrontal cortex, all regions critical for mood, memory, and stress regulation. For example, studies have shown that elevated gut-derived LPS levels correlate with increased anxiety and depressive symptoms. In fact, one study injected mice with LPS and observed anxiety-like behavior and cognitive dysfunction within hours. The message is clear. Inflammation from the gut doesn't respect anatomical borders. It hijacks the brain's chemistry and circuitry. This isn't a one-way street. Here's a paradox. The gut can affect the brain, and the brain can affect the gut, especially under chronic stress. When you experience psychological stress, whether it's from trauma, burnout, or even daily overwhelm, your sympathetic nervous system activates. This diverts blood flow away from the digestive tract, reduces protective mucus production, and alters the gut microbiome. The result? A vulnerable gut lining that's more likely to become leaky. Meanwhile, stress increases cortisol, which has been shown to impair tight junction proteins both in the gut and in the BBB. So not only does stress promote a leaky gut, it also weakens the brain's defenses. This creates a vicious cycle, a feedback loop where stress to barrier breakdown, to inflammation, to altered mood, to more stress, to deeper breakdown. On this slide, the visual loop drives that point home. The gut, brain, and brain are in constant conversation, and when the dialogue turns inflammatory, both suffer. Healing must be bidirectional, and we can't just fix the gut or brain in isolation. The good news. Yes, you can heal both, but it requires a systems-based approach. Let's start with diet. A high-fiber, plant-rich, anti-inflammatory diet supports microbial diversity, which in turn strengthens the gut lining. Fermented foods like kefir, miso, and kimchi introduce beneficial bacteria that can reinforce tight junctions. Nutrients like omega-3 fatty acids, zinc, polyphenols, and glutamine are particularly helpful in repairing gut and brain barriers. Sleep is another critical pillar. Deep restorative sleep clears inflammatory waste from the brain via the lymphatic system and repairs the BBB. Regular exercise and mindfulness practices like meditation or yoga reduce stress hormones and upregulate vagal tone, supporting gut-brain resilience. The visual on this slide is a toolbox emphasizing that there's no magic pill. Healing is multifaceted. It's not about just reducing symptoms, it's about restoring biological integrity. Let's bring it all together. Your gut barrier and brain barrier are not isolated. They are linked by shared molecular mechanisms, immune signals, and nervous system connections. When one breaks down, the other is at risk. On this final slide, we see both systems glowing with restored integrity. The quote reminds us, "Your gut barrier is your brain's first line of defense." At EQBloom, we believe emotional wellness starts with physical foundations, and those foundations live in your gut, your immune system, and your mind. So next time you're feeling foggy, anxious, or burnt out, don't just ask what's happening in your head. Ask what's happening in your gut too. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay kind to your body, and remember, healing is always possible one barrier at a time.